Lucy Carter stared out the window of her family's farmhouse as the rain poured down across the Nebraska plains. The fields stretched out before her, corn reaching toward the gray sky. It was hard to believe that somewhere beyond those clouds, alien ships watched over Earth. They had been there for 18 years, ever since the day the massive vessels of the Galactic Concordat had appeared in the skies above every major city. Lucy had never known a world without alien rule. She was born 2 years after what people called the arrival. Her parents told her stories about the brief, terrible war that followed, when humans tried to fight back and lost badly. Now, each year, the aliens demanded tribute, resources, technology, and people to fight in their death games. The games were broadcast across the 37 worlds of the Concordat. Lucy had seen pieces of them on the mandatory viewing screens the aliens installed in every town square. The humans who went never came back. At 12 years old, Lucy was small for her age. Her brown hair was cut short in a practical style, and her eyes were an unusual gray that seemed to take in everything around her. Most people saw just another farm kid. They didn't notice how she moved with perfect balance, or how those gray eyes missed nothing. Only her grandfather knew what Lucy could really do. William Carter had fought in the resistance against the aliens. He was one of the few who survived and returned home. From the time Lucy was 6 years old, he had trained her in secret. Combat skills, survival techniques, strategy, and how to use any object as a weapon. They trained in the woods behind the farm, far from the alien monitoring systems. Why me? Lucy had asked once when she was 9, nursing bruised knuckles after a particularly hard day of training. William's weathered face had grown serious. Because you have a gift, Lucy. I've trained soldiers my whole life, and I've never seen anyone pick things up the way you do. And because the aliens think humans are weak, especially human children. That's their mistake, and someday it might be their downfall. On this rainy morning, Lucy knew something was wrong as soon as she came downstairs for breakfast. Her mother, Diane, was crying at the kitchen table. Her father, Alan, stood by the window with his fists clenched at his sides. "What's wrong?" Lucy asked, though a cold feeling in her stomach told her she already knew. Alan turned, his face pale. "The selection algorithm chose you, Lucy, for the death games." Lucy felt like all the air had been sucked from the room. Even with all her training, she had never truly believed this would happen. The algorithm usually chose adults, strong ones who might provide a good show, not children. There. "Must be some mistake," Diane said, wiping her eyes. "They can't take a child." "They can take whoever they want," Alan replied, his voice bitter. "The regional governor is coming today to confirm the selection." Lucy sat down at the table, her mind racing. "Does Grandpa know?" Alan nodded. "He's on his way." William arrived before the government officials. He took Lucy to her room while her parents spoke in hushed voices downstairs. "Listen carefully," he said, closing the door. "This is happening sooner than we expected, but we've prepared for it." Lucy stared at her grandfather in confusion. "You knew this would happen?" William shook his head. "Not for certain. But I prepared for the possibility." He reached into his pocket and pulled out what looked like a small silver pill. "This contains nanites programmed to neutralize the tracking implant they'll put in you. They'll still think they can monitor your vitals and location, but you'll be able to fool their systems." Lucy looked at the tiny object. "How did you get this?" "I have friends who've been working underground since the arrival. Some of them used to be the best scientists on Earth. They've been studying alien tech, finding weaknesses." He pressed the pill into her palm. "Take it right before they process you. They think I'll die," Lucy said quietly. William's eyes were hard. "That's what they're counting on. Every species in the Concordat believes humans are physically inferior. They don't understand that our strength isn't just in our muscles." A sleek black vehicle pulled up outside. Men in the dark uniforms of the Earth Governmental Coalition stepped out, followed by a tall, thin figure that could only be an alien. "That's Admiral Zhao," William said, looking out the window. "Concordat overseer for this sector." Lucy felt, her heart pounding, but remembered her training. "Control your breathing, focus your mind. I'm scared, Grandpa." she admitted. William knelt in front of her, placing his hands on her shoulders. That's good. Fear will keep you sharp. But remember everything I taught you. The arena is just another environment. Your opponents are just another problem to solve. Downstairs, Lucy's parents were arguing with the officials. She could hear her mother's voice rising, desperate and angry. You have 1 hour to prepare, William told her. Pack nothing. They'll provide what they want. You to have. Lucy nodded. What about you? What about Mom and Dad? We'll be watching. The whole world will be watching. He squeezed her shoulders. But you won't be alone in there. Every bit of training we've done, every skill you've learned, it all goes with you. The door opened and a government official stood there, his face a careful mask. Lucy Carter, Admiral Zhao wishes to speak with you. Lucy stood, straightening her back the way her grandfather had taught her. She looked at William one last time. Remember, he whispered. They'll underestimate you at every turn. Use that. Admiral Zhao waited in the living room. His skin was a pale blue, and his eyes were large black orbs without pupils. He stood nearly 7 feet tall, with 4 long, thin arms that extended from his torso. He wore an elaborate uniform covered in symbols of rank. Lucy's parents stood. To the side, her mother openly crying now, her father's arm around her shoulders. This is the tribute? Admiral Zhao asked, his voice oddly musical despite the coldness of his words. This is Lucy Carter, the official confirmed. Zhao bent down, studying Lucy as if she were a curious insect. Your species sends such fragile specimens to the games. It is no wonder none have ever survived. Lucy looked directly into those alien eyes, remembering everything her grandfather had taught her about showing no fear. When do we leave? She asked simply. A strange expression passed over Zhao's face. Surprise perhaps, though it was hard to read alien emotions. The transport departs in 2 hours, he said. Say your goodbyes. You will not return. As the aliens and officials moved outside to prepare, Lucy hugged her parents. They held her tightly, whispering words of love and impossible promises that everything would be all right. William was the last to say goodbye. As Lucy prepared to board the sleek alien shuttle, he pulled her aside one final time. The whole universe is about to learn a lesson about humanity, he said. And you're going to be the one to teach them. Lucy nodded, feeling the weight of the tiny silver pill in her pocket. I'll see you when I get back, she said. William's face showed a faint smile. In his eyes was not despair but anticipation. The alien transport ship was unlike anything Lucy had ever seen. Inside, the walls glowed with a soft blue light. The air smelled clean but strange, like nothing on Earth. Lucy sat alone in a small chamber. The bench beneath her adjusted to her body as soon as she sat down. Through a clear panel in the wall, she could see Earth growing smaller as they left orbit. She felt a deep ache in her chest but pushed the feeling down. There would be time for feelings later. Now she needed to focus. When they were far from Earth, the door to her chamber slid open. A concordant guard stood there. This alien was different from Admiral Zhao. It had scaled skin the color of rust and eyes like a cat's. Processing, it said in a voice that sounded like gravel. Lucy followed the guard through curving hallways to a large room filled with strange equipment. Another alien waited there, this one with 6 limbs and a head that seemed too large for its body. Stand still, the 6-limbed alien said, waving a device over Lucy. Lucy remembered the silver pill in her pocket. While the aliens prepared various instruments, she slipped it into her mouth and swallowed. It went down easily, just as her grandfather had promised. Human female, 12 Earth years, the alien said to no one in particular. Underdeveloped musculature, fragile bone structure, no natural defenses. It made a sound that might have been a laugh. The Earth government grows desperate to send such a specimen. The aliens attached small devices to Lucy's arms and neck. They scanned her body with lights that tickled her skin. Finally, they injected something into her arm with a tool that didn't look like any needle she had seen. Tracking implant, the guard explained, for the arena. Lucy felt a brief sting, then a strange warmth spreading from the injection site. The nanites in the pill were working, just as her grandfather had said they would. The aliens would think they could track her every move, her vital signs, even her thoughts. But she would control what they saw. After processing, Lucy was taken to a holding area where other contestants were kept. The chamber was large with separate cells along the walls. Some had solid doors. Others had energy fields that hummed and sparked. Lucy's cell had a simple door with a small window. Through her window, she could see other cells across the corridor. In one, a huge being with 4 muscular arms paced back and forth. In another, 2 snake-like creatures with identical markings coiled around each other. A third contained what looked like a person made of crystal that glowed from within. Lucy sat on the bench in her cell and closed her eyes. She pictured the woods behind her grandfather's farm, remembering the countless hours she had spent learning to move silently, to track animals, to make weapons from whatever was at hand. She remembered how William had taught her to use her size as an advantage, to strike at vulnerable points rather than trying to overpower an opponent. "You don't need to be the strongest," he had told her. "You need to be the smartest." The door to her cell opened. Admiral Zhao stood there with another alien Lucy hadn't seen before. This new one was tall and spindly, with a hard shell like a beetle and multiple eyes that moved independently. "This is Commander Vrex," Zhao said, "the overseer of the games." Vrex bent down to look at Lucy. His exoskeleton creaked as he moved. "This is the human tribute? It is smaller than I expected." "Humans are weak," Zhao said. "But the rules state we must accept whatever tribute is selected." Lucy looked up at the 2 aliens. She made her eyes wide, let her lower lip tremble slightly. Let them think she was scared. Let them underestimate her. "What happens now?" she asked in a small voice. Rex's mandibles clicked together. "Now you choose your weapons, little human. Though I don't see what good they will do you." They led Lucy to an armory filled with weapons of all shapes and sizes. Some she recognized as similar to human weapons: swords, spears, bows. Others were completely alien, glowing with strange energies or moving as if alive. "Choose," Vrex said. "Each contestant is allowed 2 personal weapons in addition to standard gear." Lucy looked at the wall of deadly instruments. She pointed to a simple knife with a straight blade about 6 inches long. "That one." Vrex made a clicking sound again. "1 weapon only? You are permitted 2. Lucy pointed to a coil of thin, strong cord. "And that." The aliens looked at each other. Vrex's body shook in what Lucy realized was laughter. "The human child wishes to die quickly, it seems." "My grandfather taught me to use these," Lucy said, trying to sound earnest. It wasn't exactly a lie. William had taught her to use similar tools, though not these specific alien versions. "Your grandfather was foolish," Zhao said, "but it is your choice." After selecting her weapons, Lucy was given a uniform to wear. The material was light but tough, fitting her perfectly. It adjusted to her body temperature, keeping her comfortable despite the chill of the ship. That night, Lucy lay on her bed, listening to the sounds of the other contestants. The 4-armed warrior was practicing, fighting moves, grunting with each strike. The snake twins hissed to each other in a language Lucy couldn't understand, the crystal being made soft ringing sounds like wind chimes. Lucy closed her eyes and thought about what her grandfather had told her about the death games. They took place in artificial environments, designed to test different skills. Sometimes desert, sometimes forest, sometimes urban ruins. Contestants were dropped in at random points and left to survive and eliminate each other until only one remained. The next morning, a loud tone woke Lucy. The door to her cell opened, and a guard stood there. "Time," it said simply. Lucy followed, the guard to a large chamber where the other contestants were gathering. Up close they were even more intimidating. The 4-armed warrior stood at least 7 feet tall with scars covering his blue-gray skin. The snake twins moved with frightening speed, their eyes following Lucy as she entered. the crystal being towered over everyone, light pulsing within its transparent body. Commander Vrex stood on a platform above them. "Welcome to the 174th death. Games," he announced. "You have been chosen to represent your worlds in glorious combat. The rules are simple. Survive. Eliminate your opponents. The last one standing wins glory for their world and freedom for themselves." Lucy looked around, at the other contestants. There were about 50 in total from at least 20 different species. All looked far more dangerous than she did. She noticed some of them eyeing her with what seemed like amusement or pity. "The arena environment this cycle will be mountain terrain," Vrex continued. "You will find varying conditions: forests, caves, high peaks and valleys. Water is limited but available. Wildlife is present and may be dangerous." Lucy felt a flutter of excitement. Mountains with forests and caves. It was exactly the kind of environment she had trained in with her grandfather. "Prepare yourselves," Vrex said. "Entry begins in 1 hour." The contestants were led to individual preparation rooms. Lucy sat alone, checking her knife and cord. The knife was perfectly balanced, with an edge sharper than any she had used before. The cord was thin but amazingly strong. She could work with these. When the hour was up, Lucy was escorted to a small chamber with a single platform in the center. "Stand on the platform," the guard instructed. Lucy stepped onto it. A transparent tube descended around her. She felt a tingling sensation and then everything went white. When her vision cleared, she was standing on a rocky outcrop. Mountains rose around her, their peaks lost in clouds. Below, dense forest spread out across valleys and slopes. In the distance, she could see a waterfall spilling into a lake. A voice boomed from nowhere and everywhere. "The 174th Death Games begin now." Lucy took a deep breath of the cool mountain air. Then she smiled. This was her kind of place. Lucy moved quickly from the rocky outcrop where she had arrived. Standing in the open was dangerous. She needed to find cover and get a better sense of her surroundings. She scanned the area, looking for the best path down. Her grandfather had taught her to always seek high ground first, to understand the terrain before committing to a direction. The mountain slope below her was steep but manageable. She could see a thick forest about half a mile down that would provide good cover. Before moving, Lucy checked the sky. Several small objects hovered in the distance. Camera drones, she guessed. They would be broadcasting the games to the concordant worlds. She spotted 3 drones, all keeping their distance for now. Lucy began her descent, moving carefully over the loose rocks. She kept her back to the mountain face, making herself as small a target as possible. The knife the aliens had given her was secured at her waist. The cord was wrapped around her arm under her sleeve, ready to be pulled out when needed. The air was thin at this altitude, but Lucy had trained in similar conditions back on Earth. Her grandfather had taken her to the mountains in Colorado for weeks at a time. They had climbed peaks, crossed rivers, and survived on what they could find or catch. This arena might be artificial, but it felt familiar. As she neared the tree line, Lucy heard a sound above her. She pressed herself against the rock face and looked up. One of the snake twins was slithering down the mountain about 100 yards away. Its scales shimmered in the sunlight as it moved with remarkable speed across the rocks. Lucy remained perfectly still. Her uniform, though not designed for camouflage, blended reasonably well with the gray-brown rocks. The snake creature passed by without noticing her, heading toward the forest below. Once it was gone, Lucy continued her descent. She reached the forest edge and paused to listen. Birds called to each other among the trees. Water bubbled somewhere nearby. She could smell pine and earth. She moved into the forest, staying low and stepping carefully to avoid making noise. Her grandfather's training echoed in her mind. "Walk like a ghost," he had told her. "Imagine each step before you take it. Feel the ground with your toes first. Then shift your weight slowly." Lucy found a small stream cutting through the trees. She knelt beside it, cupped her hands, and drank. The water was cold and refreshing. After drinking, she followed the stream deeper into the forest. By midday, Lucy had found a good place to make a temporary shelter. A fallen tree created a natural hollow against a small rise in the ground. With some branches and leaves, She could make it nearly invisible from the outside. As she gathered materials, she heard a distant scream echo across the mountains. The games had claimed their first victim. Lucy paused, her arms full of branches, then continued working. There was nothing she could do about that now. Her shelter complete, Lucy sat inside and considered her next moves. Her grandfather had taught her that direct confrontation was almost always a mistake. "Let them fight each other," he had said. "Your job is to survive." Lucy decided her best strategy was to remain hidden and observe. Let the stronger, more aggressive contestants eliminate each other. Meanwhile, she would set traps and prepare for the later stages when fewer contestants remained. She spent the rest of the day exploring the area around her shelter, always staying within range of a quick retreat. She found several useful plants her grandfather had taught her to recognize. Some could be eaten, others had medicinal properties, and a few were poisonous. Near sunset, Lucy returned to her shelter with a handful of edible berries and roots. It wasn't much, but it would keep her strength up. As darkness fell, the temperature dropped quickly. Lucy pulled her uniform's thermal settings higher and huddled in her shelter. In the control center orbiting above the arena, Admiral Zhao and Commander Vrex watched monitors showing each contestant. Most displays showed active movement. The four-armed warrior stalking through the forest, the crystal being climbing toward a high peak, contestants hunting or being hunted. Lucy's monitor showed her curled up in her shelter, barely moving. "Human has done nothing but hide," Vrex said, mandibles clicking. "Pathetic but expected." Zhao nodded. "They are not a warrior species. I predict it will be eliminated by tomorrow." The next morning, Lucy woke before dawn. She drank from the stream, ate a few berries, then began setting her first traps. She had scouted several game trails the day before. Now she used her cord to create simple snares along those paths. Later, she found a steep slope near a frequently used path. Using a sturdy branch as a lever, she loosened several large rocks near the edge, creating an unstable area that could be triggered with a light touch. By midday, Lucy had set 5 different traps and was working on a 6th when she heard heavy footsteps approaching. She quickly climbed a nearby tree and hid among the branches. The four-armed warrior came into view, moving with surprising silence for something so large. Its blue-gray skin was marked with fresh scratches, and one of its 4 hands held what looked like a glowing sword. Lucy held her breath as it passed directly beneath her tree. The warrior stopped suddenly, head tilted as if listening. Lucy remained perfectly still. After a long moment, the warrior continued down the path, heading straight toward one of Lucy's traps. Lucy watched as the warrior approached the trip line she had set across the path. At the last second, it spotted the thin cord and stopped. It knelt to examine the trap, lips pulled back in what might have been a smile. "Clever," it said in a deep, rumbling voice. "But not clever enough, little human." Lucy's heart skipped a beat. The warrior knew she was nearby. The warrior stood and looked around, all 4 eyes scanning the forest. "I can smell you, human. Why not face me directly? I will make your death quick." Lucy remained frozen in the tree. The warrior waited a few moments, then shrugged its massive shoulders and continued down the path, carefully stepping over the trip line. When it was gone, Lucy let out the breath she had been holding. That had been close. Too close. She needed to be more careful. As the second day progressed, the sounds of distant combat echoed through the mountains. Twice Lucy heard the boom that signaled a contestant had been eliminated. The field was narrowing. Lucy decided to check one of her traps near the stream. As she approached, she saw that something had triggered it. The snare had caught one of the smaller alien contestants, a furry being with 6 legs and a round body. It hung upside down from a tree branch, struggling weakly. Lucy hesitated. Her trap had worked perfectly, but now she faced a decision. The creature was helpless. An easy kill, but Lucy had never killed before. Not a person or even an animal larger than a fish. As she watched, the creature spotted her and began making a high-pitched keening sound. Lucy drew her knife and stepped closer. The creature's eyes widened in Fear. Lucy took a deep breath, then cut the cord holding the creature. It fell to the ground with a thud. Before it could recover, Lucy pressed her knife to its throat. "Go," she said, though she wasn't sure it could understand her. "Find somewhere else to be." The creature stared at her for a moment, then scurried away into the underbrush. Lucy rewound her cord and reset the trap. Perhaps she had made a mistake, letting the creature go, but it had felt wrong to kill something so helpless. That night, huddled in her shelter, Lucy heard the announcement echo across the arena. Day 2 complete. 32 contestants remain, 18 eliminated in just 2 days. Lucy wondered how many were left from the original 50. She had seen only a fraction of them at the preparation area. In the control center, Admiral Zhao was growing frustrated. "The human still lives? How is this possible?" Vrex studied the monitors. "It has done nothing but hide. Pure luck that it hasn't been found and eliminated." "Check its vital signs," Zhao ordered. A technician pulled up Lucy's biometric data. "Normal for a human child, Admiral. Heart rate stable, stress hormones within expected ranges." "Strange," Zhao muttered. "It should be terrified." On the third day, Lucy decided to move deeper into the mountains. Her food supplies were running low, and she had spotted several drones paying too much attention to her area. As she packed up her few possessions, she heard a commotion nearby. Quietly, she crept toward the sound. In a small clearing, the snake, twins had cornered the crystal being. The giant crystalline entity was backed against a rock face, its transparent body pulsing with red light. The snake twins circled it, hissing and striking with frightening speed. Lucy watched from behind a tree as the 3 contestants fought. The crystal being seemed nearly invincible, the snake twins' attacks bouncing off its hard surface, but the twins were too fast to catch. Lucy turned to leave them to their battle when she noticed something important. The ground where the crystal being stood was different, darker and damper than the surrounding soil. An idea formed in her mind. That night, after the snake twins had retreated and the crystal being had moved on, Lucy returned to that spot. The ground was soft and wet. A natural spring bubbled up from beneath the rocks. Lucy spent hours diverting the water, creating a wide but shallow pool in a depression nearby. By morning, her work was complete. The pool looked natural, just another small water source in the mountains. But Lucy knew that when the temperature dropped at night, the water would freeze and expand. She watched from a distance the next day as the crystal being returned to the area, following what seemed. On the 5th day of the death games, Lucy woke to a strange rumbling sound. The ground shook beneath her makeshift shelter. She grabbed her knife and cord and crawled outside just as a loud announcement boomed across the arena. "Attention, contestants. The environment is changing. Prepare accordingly." Lucy watched in amazement as the mountain landscape began to transform. The forest around her seemed to melt away, trees sinking into the ground. The rocky slopes flattened and reshaped. Within minutes, Lucy found herself standing in what looked like the ruins of a city. Tall buildings rose around her, most of them damaged and crumbling. Streets ran between them, cracked and broken in many places. The air felt warmer and drier than the mountain air had been. Lucy quickly climbed to the top of a nearby building to get a better view. The urban environment stretched for miles in every direction. In the distance, she could see the shapes of other contestants moving through the streets. "Clever," Lucy whispered to herself. The Concordate controllers had changed the environment to force more direct confrontations. In the mountains, it had been too easy to hide and avoid other contestants. Here in the city, with limited cover and more open spaces, encounters would be more frequent. She needed a new strategy. Lucy studied the cityscape, looking for advantages. The buildings were close enough together that she could travel across rooftops rather than streets. That would keep her out of sight of ground-level predators. And the damaged structures offered plenty of hiding places. Lucy made her way down from her vantage point and began exploring the nearest building. It was some kind of office structure, with small rooms and narrow hallways. Perfect for setting traps. She worked quickly, using her cord to create tripwires at ankle height across doorways. She positioned fallen ceiling tiles to make noise if disturbed. Every trap was designed not to kill but to alert her to someone's presence. By midday, Lucy had secured a small area spanning 3 buildings connected by collapsed walls. She had found a source of water, a broken pipe still dripping clean liquid, into a collection pool. Food would be harder to come by in this environment, but she still had a few berries and roots from the mountain phase. As she was checking the security of her position, Lucy heard footsteps on the street below. She peered carefully over the edge of the roof and saw the 4-armed warrior striding confidently down the middle of the road. Its glowing sword hummed with energy as it swung the weapon back and forth, scanning for threats. Lucy ducked back from the edge. The warrior was dangerous, possibly the most formidable contestant remaining, but it was also overconfident, walking openly when it should have been moving carefully from cover to cover. She tracked its progress from above, moving silently across rooftops as it walked the streets below. The warrior seemed to be searching for something or someone. Twice it stopped and appeared to smell the air. After following for nearly an hour, Lucy saw the warrior approach an intersection where another contestant was hiding. This new one was almost invisible, its skin shifting colors to match its surroundings. Only a slight shimmer in the air revealed its position in the shadows of a fallen column. Lucy watched as the warrior approached the hiding contestant. The camouflaged being must have realized it had been spotted, because it suddenly lunged forward, becoming fully visible. It was humanoid, but definitely not human, with long limbs and a face like an insect's. The 2 contestants fought fiercely. The camouflaged being moved with blinding speed, but the warrior's 4 arms gave it an advantage in close combat. Lucy watched, taking note of how each fought, looking for weaknesses. The battle ended quickly. The warrior drove its glowing sword through the chest of the camouflaged being. The defeated contestant dissolved into sparkling dust, the way the crystal being had when it shattered. The warrior roared in triumph, lifting all 4 arms to the sky. Then it turned and looked directly at the building where Lucy was hiding. "I know you're watching, human," it called out. "I can smell you. Why not come down and face me? I promise to make it quick." Lucy remained perfectly still. The warrior waited a few moments, then shrugged its massive shoulders and continued down the street. When it was gone, Lucy let out the breath she had been holding. The warrior was hunting her specifically. That was unexpected and dangerous. She needed to be more careful. That night, a new announcement echoed through the city. Day 5 complete. 10 contestants remain. The games were moving faster than ever. The urban environment was doing its job, forcing confrontations and eliminations. In Wayne, the control center, Admiral Zhao stared at the monitor showing Lucy's vital signs. "The human child still lives. How is this possible?" Commander Vrex clicked his mandibles nervously. "It has done nothing but hide and run. Pure luck that it hasn't been found and eliminated." "Check its tracking data again," Zhao ordered. A technician brought up a display showing Lucy's movements over the past 5 days. "The data shows minimal movement, Admiral. It spends most of its time in one place, barely moving." Zhao frowned. "And yet somehow it has survived while 40 other contestants have been eliminated. This makes no sense." On the 6th day, Lucy decided she needed to be more active. With only 10 contestants left, hiding would become increasingly difficult. The arena would likely shrink to force more confrontations. She gathered her few possessions and began moving through the city, staying high on the rooftops when possible. Her goal was to find a new secure area, preferably one with good visibility in all directions. As she crossed a narrow bridge between 2 buildings, Lucy heard a familiar sound. The snake twins were moving through a structure below her. She froze, watching as they slithered along, their scales shimmering in the sunlight filtering through broken windows. The twins were hunting together, communicating with soft hisses. Lucy noticed they seemed injured, one worse than the other. The more damaged twin had a large wound on its side, leaking a greenish fluid. Lucy followed them from above, careful to stay out of sight. When the twins entered a large open area that might have once been a lobby, Lucy saw an opportunity. The damaged twin was clearly weakening, falling behind its partner. Using her cord, Lucy created a quick pulley system around a broken support beam. She tied one end to a large chunk of concrete and positioned it directly above the path the damaged twin was taking. When the injured snake creature passed beneath her position, Lucy released the concrete block. It fell silently through the air, striking the twin directly on its head. The creature collapsed without a sound. The other twin turned at the sound of its partner hitting the floor. It hissed in alarm, darting forward to check on its fallen companion. Lucy was already moving, circling around to approach from behind. She dropped silently from a broken ledge, landing just behind the remaining twin. Before it could turn, she drove her knife into the base of its skull, where her grandfather had taught her most reptilian species had a vulnerable nerve cluster. The twin stiffened, then collapsed beside its partner. Both creatures dissolved into the same sparkling dust Lucy had seen before. Lucy retrieved her knife and cord, then quickly left the area. The drones would have recorded the kills, and other contestants might be drawn to the location. That night, Lucy found shelter in what appeared to be an old storage facility. The announcement came right on schedule. Day 6 complete, 6 contestants remain. In the control center, alarms were blaring. Technicians rushed back and forth between monitors. "What is happening?" Zhao demanded. Vrex's mandibles clicked rapidly, a sign of extreme agitation. The tracking data doesn't match the drone footage. The drones recorded it eliminating the serpent twins, but its tracking implant showed it hiding in a completely different sector. "Impossible," Zhao said. "The tracking implants cannot be fooled." "See for yourself, Admiral." Vrex brought up 2 displays side by side. One showed Lucy's biological data, heart rate steady, location fixed in a small building across the city. The other showed drone footage of Lucy efficiently eliminating the snake twins. "Run a diagnostic on the implant," Zhao ordered. A technician typed rapidly at a control panel. "The implant is functioning normally, Admiral. No signs of damage or tampering." Zhao's face darkened. "Then how is this possible?" On the 7th day of the games, Lucy woke to another announcement. "Attention contestants. Final phase beginning. Convergence protocol initiated." She felt the ground shake again. Looking outside, she saw the city was changing once again. Buildings were crumbling, streets shifting. The entire arena was contracting, forcing the remaining contestants toward a central location. Lucy gathered her things and began moving toward what appeared to be a large plaza forming at the center of the city. She would need to be careful now. With only 6 contestants left and all of them being pushed toward each other, direct confrontation was inevitable. As she approached the plaza, Lucy spotted the 4-armed warrior again. It was moving confidently toward the center, glowing sword at the ready. She also saw what appeared to be a massive being made of living fire, and another contestant that seemed to shift between solid and gas forms. The final battle was approaching. Lucy checked her knife and cord one last time, then began formulating a plan. Her grandfather's voice echoed in her mind. "When you can't avoid a fight, control when and where it happens." Lucy moved toward a position overlooking the PO. The central plaza of the arena was bathed in artificial sunlight. 6 platforms rose from the ground, forming a circle. Each platform held one of the remaining contestants. Lucy stood on hers, knife in hand, surveying her opponents. The 4-armed warrior occupied the platform directly across from her. Its blue-gray skin was marked with battle scars, and its glowing sword hummed with energy. To her left was a being made of living fire, its body constantly shifting and reforming. To her right was a contestant that seemed to flicker between solid and gaseous states. The other 2 platforms held beings Lucy hadn't seen before. One covered in thick armor plates, the other tall and slender with what looked like blades for arms. Commander Vrex's voice boomed across the plaza. "Final phase begins in 30 seconds. Last contestant standing wins the 174th Death Games." Lucy looked up at the camera drones hovering above the plaza. They were recording everything for the entertainment of the Concordat worlds. Millions of alien beings were watching, waiting to see the human child eliminated. 20 seconds. In the control center, Admiral Zhao watched the monitors with growing concern. The transmission from Earth continued, playing on all channels despite the technicians' efforts to block it. "You think you understand humans," William Carter's voice said calmly. "You think we're weak because our bodies aren't as strong as yours. That's where you made your mistake." 10 seconds. Lucy checked her knife one last time. The cord was wrapped around her left arm, ready to be deployed. She measured the distance to the other platforms. The four-armed warrior would come for her. First, she was sure of it. The others would likely fight among themselves before dealing with what they perceived as the weakest contestant. 5 seconds. "Our strength isn't in our muscles," William continued. "It's in our minds. It's in our ability to turn weakness into strength. It's in our ability to adapt. Begin." The platforms descended to floor level. The contestants stepped off, weapons raised, eyes fixed on their opponents. The four-armed warrior, as Lucy had predicted, turned immediately toward her. "Finally," it growled. "I've been hunting you, little human. Now there's nowhere left to hide." Lucy didn't run. She stood her ground, knife held low at her side. The warrior approached, confident in its size and strength advantage. "Any last words before you die?" the warrior asked, raising its glowing sword. Lucy smiled. "Just 4. I've been hunting you." The warrior hesitated, confused by her response. That moment of hesitation was all Lucy needed. She flicked her wrist, releasing a length of her cord. The thin, strong line wrapped around one of the warrior's ankles. Before it could react, Lucy darted forward, sliding between its legs. She pulled the cord tight, yanking the warrior's foot out from under it. Off balance, the massive being stumbled forward. Lucy was already moving again, circling behind the warrior as it regained its footing. Her grandfather had taught her that larger opponents were often less agile, turn their size into a disadvantage. The warrior roared in anger, swinging its sword in a wide arc. Lucy ducked under the blow and struck with her knife, targeting a spot between the armor plates on the warrior's back. The blade sank deep into blue-gray flesh. The warrior howled, reaching back with 2 of its forearms to grab her. Lucy was already gone, darting away to a safe distance. The warrior pulled her knife from its back and threw it aside. "You'll need more than a pinprick to defeat me," it snarled. Lucy said nothing. She was watching the wound she had made. The knife had struck exactly where she intended, severing a major blood vessel her grandfather had identified in his study of Centaurian physiology. Dark fluid poured from the wound. The warrior charged again, but its movements were already slowing as it lost blood. Lucy dodged easily, using her cord to trip it once more. This time, when the warrior fell, it struggled to rise. What did you do to me?" it gasped. "I studied you," Lucy said simply. "While you were hunting me, I was learning how to beat you." The warrior collapsed, its body dissolving into sparkling dust like the others before it. Lucy retrieved her knife and turned to face the remaining contestants. The being of living fire and the phase-shifting contestant had eliminated the blade-armed opponent and were now locked in combat. The heavily armored being approached Lucy, moving with surprising speed despite its bulk. Lucy assessed her new opponent quickly. The armor looked impenetrable, covering every inch of the creature's body. No obvious weak points. She would need a different strategy. As the armored being closed in, Lucy retreated, leading it toward the ongoing battle between the fire being and the phase shifter. She circled the combatants, the armored being following. The fire being noticed her approach and sent a stream of flame in her direction. Lucy dropped to the ground, the fire passing over her head and striking the armored being behind her. The armor began to glow red-hot. Lucy rolled away as the armored being roared in pain. The phase shifter, seeing an opportunity, launched itself at the distracted fire being. The two collided in a spectacular explosion that filled the plaza with smoke and light. When the smoke cleared, both were gone. Only Lucy and the armored being remained. The armored being was in trouble. Its protective shell, designed to withstand physical attacks, was conducting heat from the fire being's attack. The creature inside was cooking alive. In desperation, it began removing pieces of its armor, exposing vulnerable flesh beneath. Lucy watched, waiting for her moment. When the being had removed enough armor to relieve its suffering, but not enough to fully protect itself, she struck. Her knife found the gap between chest and arm plates, sinking deep into soft tissue. The armored being froze, then toppled sideways, dissolving like the others. Lucy stood alone in the center of the plaza, knife in hand. She was breathing hard but otherwise uninjured. The entire final battle had taken less than 10 minutes. A stunned silence filled the arena. Then Commander Vrex's voice, sounding shaken. The 174th Death Games are concluded. The human contestant is victorious. In the control center, Admiral Zhao stared at the monitors in disbelief. Impossible, he whispered. William Carter's voice answered him. Not impossible. Inevitable. You see, Admiral, we've been studying your species since you arrived on Earth. Your technology, your biology, your tactics. Lucy was trained specifically to exploit your weaknesses. One human child cannot defeat our champions, Zhao protested. It was luck. Was it luck that she knew exactly where to strike the Centaurian warrior to sever its primary blood vessel? Was it luck that she knew the crystalline being would shatter if frozen and thawed rapidly? Was it luck that she understood how to neutralize your tracking implant? William's voice was calm but firm. No, Admiral. It was knowledge. It was preparation. It was humanity doing what we do best, adapting and overcoming. A new voice joined the transmission, a woman's voice with the authority of leadership. Admiral Zhao, this is President Rivera of the Earth United Government. What you've witnessed today is not an isolated incident. Lucy Carter is just one of thousands of humans we've been training in secret. We could have fought back at any time. In the last 18 years, we chose to wait, to learn, to prepare. Lucy looked up at the camera drones, knife still clutched in her hand. She showed no signs of the exhaustion or trauma that should have affected a child after such an ordeal. The terms of the games are clear, President Rivera continued. The victor's world receives special status within the Concordat. We expect those terms to be honored immediately. Admiral Zhao faced a decision that would alter the course of galactic history. The evidence was clear. Humans were not the weak, primitive species the Concordat had believed them to be. If one child could do this, what could an army of adults accomplish? The terms will be honored, Zhao said finally. Earth will be reclassified as a Class A autonomous ally rather than a subjugated world. Lucy was transported back to the control center, where Admiral Zhao waited with his staff. The alien leader looked at the small human girl with new respect and, Lucy noted, a hint of fear. The Concordat honors its agreements, Zhao said formally. You have won freedom for your world. The tribute system ends today. Lucy nodded but said nothing. Her part in this was done. The adults would handle the diplomatic details now. 3 days later, Lucy stood with her family on the porch of their Nebraska farmhouse. Her parents couldn't stop hugging her. Her grandfather stood a little apart, smiling proudly. You did good, kid, William said when they finally had a moment alone. Better than we could have hoped. Lucy shrugged. I just did what you taught me to do. You did more than that. You changed everything. William looked up at the sky where Concordat ships now orbited as allies rather than conquerors. They'll never underestimate humans again. In the months that followed, the relationship between Earth and the Concordat transformed. Human representatives joined the Galactic Council. Earth ships began exploring nearby star systems under Concordat guidance. The Death Games were replaced with non-lethal competitions focused on skill and intelligence rather than combat. And Lucy Carter returned to her life as a farm girl in Nebraska, though she was now recognized across 37 worlds. She still trained with her grandfather every day, learning new skills, preparing for whatever might come next. Because if humanity had learned anything from its encounter with the Concordat, it was that the universe was all